Here we are. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Come on, get in that chat, get sharing and that, please. Very sensitive subject tonight. Very sensitive subject, Zionism. We'll go to Paul in a minute, but let me just do my little speech, So the troubles that are going on with Israel and Palestine now is that Israel are backed by the West. It's all over. Even though they can't directly donate, that's illegal. They donate by lavish gifts and stuff like that, luxury flights, travel across Europe and that and the world. And there's other ways they can give money to our MPs, and it comes into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the thing is, to me, that I don't get is that none of this, whether it's coming from Israel, China, the Gulf states, none of this is beneficial for the UK population in general. It's only beneficial for those at the top. It's only beneficial for the top organizations and stuff like that. And unfortunately, our political parties are infiltrated with these foreign interest groups, such as the Friends of Israel, that have connections to the Tory party, to the Labour Party, as well as the Gulf states donating 10 million in about 10 years to approximately 160 MPs with lavish gifts and flights and all stuff like that, which is, in the end, not beneficial for the majority of UK citizens, no matter where you come from, no matter what ethnicity you are. It is nothing good for us, and it only affects the top people. But anyway, let's get on with it tonight, and we'll get to Paul. Paul, what is Zionism?
Good evening, folks. So Zionism, why is it so controversial? We know what Zionism is. It's basically the supposed return or the movement of people who claim to be Jews. And they claim they're going back to their homeland, which was the Holy Land, Palestine. But of course, the actual Jews, the Hebrews, left the Holy Land in the 2nd century AD, was scattered to the four corners and interbred and intermingled and became a very different people. I mean, the people who pioneered Zionism, Thomas Herzl and people like that, Theodor Herzl, even the Rothschilds who financed it, they were all Yiddish-speaking German Jews, Ashkenazi Jews. Whether they had any connection to the Holy Land, another issue. I mean, the Ashkenazi Jews are, pale-skinned, tend to be rather bright-eyed, light-coloured eyes, lighter colour hair. Some of them have dark hair, but they're very different from the Jews that would have left the Holy Land. Of course, you have the Sephardic Jews, basically came from Spain and the Mediterranean. They're a bit like Shylock, out of The Merchant of Venice, or Fagin out of Oliver Twist. They had this curly black hair and long noses, and they're dark skins, olive-coloured skins, obviously Mediterranean people. But anyway, the Ashkenazi decided, as the empires of Europe was splitting up into different nations, they wanted their own homeland. And they decided they wanted Palestine, which at the time was controlled by the Ottoman Turks, although it was run by the Arabs locally. They ran their own country. Now, they started a campaign, the Zionist Jews around the world, saying, a people with no land, that's the Jews, for a land with no people, that was Palestine. They claimed Palestine was empty, and they were going to go there and develop it and make it a modern country and so on and so forth. Of course, that wasn't true. There were already 500,000 Arabs living there. They'd been there for centuries and were deeply rooted in that land. So they were effectively going to push the Arabs aside. And they decided what they needed to do was get the British on their side, because we were the great imperial power at the time. They needed the British to push out the Turks, because they couldn't do that. And they needed ultimately some sort of war for the British to be fighting the Turks so that they could get us to go and send an army there and kick the Turks out. And this happened in 1917. During the First World War, the British Army under Allenby moved the cross from Egypt into Palestine and basically push out the Turks. Now, they got the alliance of the Arabs and said to the Arabs, look, once the Turks are gone, you will have full control of your homeland. But of course, they already had a deal with the Jews. And the deal with the Jews was this: we will give you a homeland. And that's what they called it, not a state, a homeland in Palestine, a place to settle. And in return, the Jews have promised to aid Britain in the First World War, and if possible, bring the Americans in on our side. Why did the Americans enter the First World War? Basically, the influence of the Zionists in Washington, D.C. People like Louis Brandeis and Jacob Schiff, who were the top Jews at the time, Supreme Court judge, run Wall Street. The Jews had a slogan, money is power. Who control the money, control the nations. And they had taken control of Wall Street. And they used that control on Wall Street to control the British Empire and the American state and just twist our arm gently or just encourage us to be their allies in the takeover of Palestine. Now, Palestine, as you know, is the center of the Islamic world. Jerusalem is a holy city to Christians, to Muslims, and to Jews. So they weren't going to give up Palestine without a fight, the Arabs. And the British took it over after the First World War and imposed a mandate on Palestine. The Balfour Declaration said the Jews would have a homeland. The Jews met with the Arabs. Shane Weissman, he met with the Arab leaders and said, look, we want to establish a homeland here in Palestine. What would you give us? And the Arabs said, basically, all you're getting is Tel Aviv, and the rest of it will be controlled by the Arabs. And the Jews said, oh, we want a bit more than that. You know, we want a lot. We want at least half of Palestine. And we've come, the Jews said, to develop not only Palestine, but the whole region, to economically develop it. And the Arabs said, we're not interested in that. We don't want to be developed. We'll develop at our own pace. But the Arabs perceived straight away that the Jews were not just interested in Palestine. They were interested in getting hegemony, dominance over the whole Middle East. This was a colonial movement. They were going to use Palestine as a base to impose their will on the whole Middle East. Now, the friction developed then, and war started basically between the Arabs and the Jews, with skirmishes. Now, the Jews were coming over from Germany. A lot of them were expelled or left the Third Reich. Over 150,000 German Jews went to Palestine and formed a strong Jewish community there, an advanced Jewish community, of course, much more advanced than the Arabs. But other Jews came from Poland and Russia. They were very militant, very aggressive. A lot of them had fascist backgrounds, as we found out that many of them were linked with Mussolini and had been in training camps in Italy. Before 1938, Mussolini was very friendly to the Jews. And they liked the way the fascists operate. You know, might is right. Use the power. Just do what you got to do. Be ruthless. Kill the Arabs. Kill the British. Impose a Jewish state. And there were gangs like the Stern Gang and the Airgun Gang, which did murder British servicemen, which carried out acts of terrorism, which brutally attacked Arab communities. Orde Wingate, a famous British general, helped the Zionists and showed them all sorts of tactics to destroy the Arab armies. Now, at the end of the Second World War, the Jews found themselves in a full-scale war against the Arab nations, who knew what their intentions were. Because although the Jews had said that this was a people without a land for a land without a people, there were over 1 million Arabs now, maybe 1.5 million by 1945, in Palestine. And the Arab armies came to help them, but the Jews had got arms. A lot of them had served in the British Jewish Legion. The Germans actually given them a lot of arms after the Second World War, and they defeated the Arab armies, and they got the United Nations. They twisted the arm of Harry S. Truman. They used their influence in America to get Harry S. Truman to back the state, a new state there. Not a homeland for the Jews, but a state of Israel, which would give them sovereignty. They'd basically taken over the land of the Arabs. The Arabs had been there for at least a few thousand years, and now they were being pushed out. It was colonialism. It was theft. It was a criminal act. But because they had this control of the American administration, they got international support to carry this out. And the Arabs were pushed out of a lot of their homeland. They were driven out, driven into Lebanon, driven into the West Bank, driven into Egypt. And we then went through a period of stability until 1967. The Arabs attacked the Israeli state to try and reclaim their land. And what did the Israelis do? They counterattacked. They had superior weaponry. They had a superior air force. They conquered the West Bank. And this is where the problems really begin, because they didn't just want to administer the West Bank. There was 1 million Arabs in the West Bank. They wanted to push them out as well. They wanted to take their land. And they began settlements in the West Bank, which have grown larger and larger. And they also eventually took over the Gaza Strip. And now the Gaza Strip, this is what we're talking about tonight. The Gaza Strip came under Israeli administration, but it was a constant thorn in Israel's side. And eventually Israel agreed a settlement with the Palestinians to give them control of the Gaza Strip. They withdrew from the Gaza Strip. But Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip. And the Arabs have grown in number. Suddenly, instead of 1 million, 1.5 million, there's now 6 million of them. And the Jews faced a demographic threat now, as well as a military threat from the Arabs. And so the way they responded to this was to provoke the Arabs into attacking them. And then they had this plan. This is the way they operate. They want ultimately to crush the Arabs in the Gaza and drive them out. Drive them out where? Probably to Britain. You know, they want to flatten their cities, which they've done. They've flattened their cities. This is what they always wanted. So what they do, it's a tactic they use all the time. They create a scenario. They allowed the Arabs or any other of their opponents to commit an atrocity. An atrocity they could have stopped because they had prior knowledge of the attack on the 7th of October. They had strong border defenses. They could easily have stopped that attack, but they chose not to because it's atrocity propaganda, isn't it? They need like 9/11, they need dead bodies to justify war. And suddenly they had them, and they went on this attack. And this attack, you see, their goal was always to destroy the Arabs in Gaza and drive them out because demographically, in terms of population, they're a threat to Israel. And this has allowed Bibi to go to war on the Arab peoples. And we've seen atrocity after atrocity. I mean, yesterday, the Israelis blew up a line of women and children and said, oh, sorry, it was an accident. It was meant for terrorists, but instead we've killed a lot of women and children. I mean, who are the terrorists? Who's killing women and children day in, day out? You know, so it's bizarre, the whole propaganda. But we are being roped in to support them from our air bases in Cyprus, with our technology, our monitoring technology, financially. We're being roped in to support this aggression against the Arab people of the Gaza. And now it's really bizarre because in our own country, the government is fighting Islamophobia. It claims it's sticking up for Muslims, the minority Muslim population. But in Israel, they're actually destroying the Muslim population, helping to destroy it. And we already know that their goal is to bring them to this country. The goal to replace the indigenous British people with third world people will be enhanced if they can bring the Palestinians here. That's the goal of this Labour government. We've got a government that wants to destroy us, wants to destroy the Muslim population, the Arab population, Arab Christians as well, in the Holy Land, and is supporting Israel there. And Israel supports both these agendas as well. And this is what Zionism has come to. Zionism began with the colonization of Palestine, and it's now taking control of the West. As Trump said, God bless Israel. That was his first call. Not God bless America, God bless Israel. We're all like puppets now of the Zionist movement. John.
Thank you, Paul. Deep that, guys. That's deep. But Pat's joined us. Let me just check Pat's sound. Pat, speak.
1 2 1 2. Mic test.
Muffled.
Is it?
Yeah, a bit high and muffled. I'm just muting him for a sec. But I mean, the things going on now over there, you know, whether you like Israel or not, you know, like, I don't care. I care about the United Kingdom. But what goes on over there is affecting us, as in, we've had the Scottish PM say he wants Palestinians here. There's Labour MPs wanting that now. And we don't want anyone, we don't want to give them citizenship. They should be staying in their own country and should sort it out. And Trump has been little bit angry with Israel and all that's going on over there. I've heard him a couple of times, even though you might think he's Zionist control, he has voiced his opinion on this. And I believe everything that Paul says and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's causing more destabilization in the Middle East, which is affecting us in the long run. And people just know that it's going to go on, but no one says anything and nothing gets done about it. But the influence that they have in the West, these groups and countries, and it's not just Israel, China, the Gulf states have donated to 160 or give lavish gifts to 160 MPs. It's all detrimental to us now and how we live here, no matter where you come from. If you've got British citizenship, any of that is detrimental. And that's my biggest gripe over everything here, and it's blindingly obvious. Let's get Pat on.
Just a 1 2 1 2.
It still sounds a bit high, but just turn your mic level down. Try it now.
One two 1 2.
Yeah, we'll have to do with that.
Better?
No, I don't think. What? No.
Leave me out. Just go to someone else.
Right. Stuart, let's get Stuart on. Big Stuart.
Well, good evening, everybody. First thing, can I ask anybody listening, share this out, get our party known, get on the website. If you like what you see, come and join us. We're always open for donations, looking for leafleting so we can get things going locally. But I would like to add a little bit to what Paul said about the history of the main part of the Jewish people. There was a Jewish historian, very famous, very noted, called Abraham Pollock. He researched the ancestry of what he called his people, the Jewish people. Now, they originate from Khazars and two other family. So there are three family tribes that amalgamated, and they were part of, their ancestry was actually Turkic and Mongolian. That's where they fully originate from. That's a Jewish historian saying that. So that's the first thing I'd like to add to that. Also, in the 1930s, I can't remember exactly which year, I don't know if you've heard of the Havara Agreement, which I think took place possibly in Hungary, where it was agreed that over 60,000 Jewish people, the Germans would provide boats for them. And they were actually still Nazis, but they were Jewish. And they were flying the Nazi flag all the way until the last couple of miles before they landed in the 1930s to help colonize Palestine. So there's a lot more history there that we could add to. But for me, it's how it's affecting us. The Zionism, as Paul said, is full control of the Middle East. All the other countries are nearly sold out. Syria is still left, but that's got Jelani in there now. And Jelani apparently yesterday said that they will accept Palestinian refugees. So I think it's going to happen. 70% of Gaza or over is absolutely flattened. It is rubble. And I don't care what anybody says or who's doing it. What's happening in Palestine is a Holocaust. If you look up the definition of Holocaust, it fits. You know, when you decimate a population in part or in full, it is a Holocaust and it is a sacrifice. And that's something else you could get into, is the Talmudic side of Judaism. And there are some hideous things within the Judaic religion. And you have a lot of the Jewish rabbis that actually teach against Christianity, that they can never coexist. And that's what's happening at the moment, is that Zionism is pushing all the Muslims and the Christians together because they want war between us. And that's what's being pushed by the takeover of the Middle East, years and years of bombing. You know, you had Netanyahu say there was going to be 7 countries, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria. Now, Iran was on the list. There's one other I can't think of. And in an interview a couple of months ago, he said once they've subdued Iran, they're going to move on to Pakistan because they're a nuclear threat to Israel, they say. So where does it stop, really? I've got to say I'm flabbergasted with what's gone on in the last 21 months. I mean, the most secure border in the world, that if you're the size of a rat, the surveillance picks you up. There was no reaction for 7 hours, except by reservists. And when you pull your commanders away, when you pull your forces away, and there was also gates left open, gates that you could drive jeeps through. Yes, the Hamas did blow some holes in the wall and go through that way, but there were several entrances that were left open. You also had the festival, that was moved, I think 2, maybe 3 days beforehand. It was moved closer to the border. So it was all contrived, I believe, to happen. Netanyahu wanted it to happen. They want Gaza. There is there's a lady, I can't remember her name, but she is a little Zionist Jewish woman, and it's her job to set up settlements. And of course, by international law, any settlement in West Bank or Gaza is illegal under UN laws that Israel agreed to. So once these illegal little settlements start up, once they get big enough, Israel government just legalise them, and then they push out more and more. And I return to the fight against Christianity, is that the last few days they've been burning out Christian Palestinian families from their land, from their ancestral land. They're burning out the Christians. The only Jews or followers of Judaism that I believe are proper Jewish, Hebrew rooted, live in Jerusalem, and they support the Palestinians. They don't support the Israeli government, but you don't get to see that much on our news. That there are Jews that do in Israel, in the most holy city in the world, supposedly, Jerusalem. They live there and they support Palestine. They protest and they get beaten down by their own troops. So the people there, most of them are not heraldic or ancestral Jews. They come from three main tribes, and yes, filtered blood here and there, but they come from three very violent ancestral tribes and also very paranoid. And between 1948 and over the years, Jews have actually done terror attacks in areas where Jews live to force Jews back to Israel to increase their population and therefore push out the Palestinians more. So once they, and it will happen, Trump's well with it as well. I don't know whether it's controlled by Israel or not, but it pretty much seems so. The Jewish press in the last week or two have been boasting how they're the most powerful country in the world because they control America and they control Trump. And that's the Jewish newspapers boasting it. So one of the smallest countries in the world that has a Samson option from a nuclear program that they're not supposed to have, and they say they don't have, but everybody knows they have, that they stole off the Americans in the first place. Not only the uranium, but also the design for the missiles to carry the bombs. So there's a lot of history there, and I'm sorry if I flitted around here and there, but the threat to our society, we've seen it every day for the last few years. And I'd just like to bring up one thing, is it's just been released that there are now 1.26 million immigrants claiming universal credit. Most of them are from Europe, apparently. Whether they're Muslims from Europe or not, I don't know. But since 2022, that has risen by 50%. So in 3 years, we've added over 400,000 new people that come from abroad that have never paid into our system.
What the fuck's happened here?
And we're getting some really horrible echoes, so I'm going to mute up and let somebody else.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. I don't know what went on there. That were a bit. I just want to give a big shout out to Antonella. Antonella in the chat there. Just Antonella in the chat. Please, guys, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. Come on and give us some comments on the videos and get a bit more active. It's certainly a most lovely person to meet and to know. Such a nice heart, and she's a pinnacle example of a great patriot. Not like some of the others that I've run into the past few weeks, the lowlives, but she is a fantastic. So please give her a share, please, and like a channel. She started to talk and do video, but want to do it well. Please like and subscribe. Interesting chat tonight. You've heard the history of Paul and Stuart there. We're going to go over to James in a minute, see what he thinks. Now, I know I get people are pro-Israel. I get it, but still, in the end, any of these foreign interest groups are not going to help the people in the United Kingdom. It's not going to solve our housing crisis, not going to solve our cost of living crisis. It's going to make everything worse. I keep like saying this, and I've done plenty of videos to explain it. Now, you know, you can go into Jews about whatever else you want to, but that's like the thing going on now. And it's not just these past few years, and we'll get to Pat. This has been going on over decades. This has been going on absolute decades where they've wormed their way in and, you know, and just destroying Europe and everything and causing trouble for everyone. That's what I'm on. But anyway, let's get over to James. James.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow. Awesome breakdown history coverage from you there, Paul and Stuart. I'm quite. I've researched quite a lot over the last year or two. But even bits you were saying now, I wasn't aware of. I do think it is a major issue. Because you got to look at the Friends of Israel groups that are donating to our politicians in the main parties, and then you look at the actions of the politicians. From an outside looking in, it can sometimes look that they're protecting and prioritizing non-native people and Muslims, you know, over Christians. But then you look at the amount of money the UK give to Israel to destroy Muslims. So it's, you know, what's the Mossad motto? By deception, we do war. And you can not just war, but you can look at these discreet and secret and very clever, if we're being honest, ways of worming themselves into government, into positions of power, into the media, all these things to control the narrative and to get people on side. And not most people, but a lot of nationalists in this country have been fooled by them, in my opinion. So yeah, I do see this as a big issue. I don't have that much more to add because you guys have covered it really well. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. And just wanted to say as well, you know, where I don't think you'll find many other parties speaking with this honesty about this issue. So yeah, check out the website, National Housing Party UK. Check out the policies, and come on board. We're running local elections, and we've all got to start doing the work if we want to change our country. You know, how many failed politicians, like big name politicians, have we had over the years? Yeah, we've all got to come together and do the work if we want to free and save our country. God bless.
Thank you, James. You know, really good that. And I've just got to mention, guys, 23rd of August, our conference, but you've got to email in. And I know that James has emailed in. I've seen it come in. And I know I've emailed, and there's a couple of others, but you got to email in, guys. Get joining our conference. If you want to look at the party website, I put it in the chat a couple of times. We're gonna get to Pat in a minute. We're gonna get to Pat in a minute because I know Pat has a lot to say. But like I said, in the news now, they want to start up camps, process, and then deport all Palestinians. That's what they're doing now. That's officially been said. And I mean, people were saying it before, but Pat's one of them people who was saying it before. He's been saying this for a while, and you know, they're doing it, and they won't be able to go back to that country. And unfortunately, like I said, if you support Israel because they're against Muslims, then Palestinians will want to come here. And there's been MPs saying that that's where they're gonna, you know, they want them here. So, you know, like, you're defeating the object. You're not looking at the bigger picture. You're not looking at the effects it's going to have on the working class of the UK. Pat, let's hear your sound. Let's get him up. How's your sound? You have to unmute.
Testing 1 2.
It's still a bit high. It's still a bit high.
One sec.
Right, go on.
1 sec. It got become, for some reason, it became float. Is that any better?
No.
No? Oh, goodness. Try.
It's really muffled.
Is that any good? Testing 1 2. No. Sorry about this, guys. Default. Is that any good? No. Oh, just leave me out, John. Don't worry.
What do you mean leave you out? Oh, I can't. There's no way can I do this stream tonight with leaving part.
Is that any better?
We're not really.
I can hear you, Pat.
It's not great, but we can hear you fine.
This is a nightmare. I'm just trying to microphone.
I think
Testing 1 2.
we can carry on because we've got to look at the way our political parties respond to Israel. The Labour Party, right? The Labour Party was gung-ho for the attack on Gaza. And even though they knew what the implications of that were, because the Labour Party, the Labour Friends of Israel, have got a grip on the Labour Party again through Starmer, the leader. Starmer is crypto Jew. His family is Jewish. He attends his local synagogue. He's in line with all Israeli policies. But of course, in Britain, he pretends that he's pro-Muslim because this is the Zionist face. They point both ways. But their goal is to bring in more and more third world immigrants to undermine the British people and ultimately destroy us. Because that is another aspect of Zionism. Zionism is about control of the world, ultimately. It's about control of the Middle East in terms of Israel, the hard politics. But the Zionist influence, the Zionist lobby, in America, it's absolutely huge. AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. It controls all but 1 or 2 members of the Congress. And they have access to all the politicians in America. They explain to the politicians in America what Israel's agenda is and what Israel wants to come about. And the American politicians just fall in with it. Now, some lady earlier on this chat, it was posted that she said, Trump is not controlled by the Israeli lobby. Trump would not go against the interest of Israel. He's made that clear. Because, I mean, basically, his first administration was scuppered by the American Jews who control the Democrat Party. The Democratic Party is their poodle. They finance the Democratic Party. All the leading figures, the likes of Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer. I mean, all the previous administration, Tony Newland, Anthony Blinken, they're all Jewish. Even the guy who let all the immigrants flood into America, Mayorkas, or what his name is, he's Jewish. I mean, the Jews control the Democrat Party, but they also control the Republican Party. If anyone goes against Israel in America, AIPAC will finance their opponents. They'll scupper them. They have total access to the media. They'll scupper any opponents and they'll finance their people against them. And this is what they do in the States. So if the representatives in Congress are all totally in line with Israel's policy. And Israel's policy, I mean, Stuart alluded to this earlier, was about regime change across the Middle East. So they brought down Colonel Gaddafi. They brought down the government Tunisia. They brought down Mubarak in Egypt. And of course, we fought the war for them to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Now they've just brought down Assad. They'll bring down anybody, and ultimately their goal is to bring down the Iranians. That's proven a little bit more trickier. But with the support of the West in all these coups, I mean, it was RAF jets who bombed Libya. It was the Americans who were engaged, who led the coalition to remove Saddam Hussein. Now, this was during the war on terror. Why were we fighting a war on terror against Iraq? Iraq had nothing to do with Al Qaeda. Iraq wasn't involved in Afghanistan. In fact, Al Qaeda was hostile to Saddam Hussein. So why were we fighting Saddam Hussein? We were just doing Israel's bidding. All these wars are wars for Israel. We're actually giving our lives, the lives of our young lads, we're giving away for a greater Israel. And we're financing these wars to bring down their opponents. Now Israel virtually rules supreme in the Middle East. I mean, Iran has been buckled, hasn't it? I mean, it's under the cosh severely. Russia is under the cosh as well. Both are surviving, but I wouldn't say they're prospering. China is another kettle of fish. Now, something else we need to mention is India. Zionist influence on India. If you notice, whether you live in Ireland or Britain or the United States or so many parts of Europe, Indians are flooding into our country. They're now the Israeli immigrants of choice. The Israelis have decided they're going to try and limit, to some degree, the Muslim takeover of the West and bring in a foe for Islam, seeing the Christians don't seem up for the fight. They're bringing the Hindus in. Imagine the cocktail that will be if Britain is half Hindu, half is Muslim. And of course, you've got the Africans as well, they're coming in. So they're creating this whole cocktail of different groups, which will all ultimately be in competition with each other for power and resources. And we all know multicultural societies don't work. You either integrate or you separate. And the Hindus and the Muslims and the Africans, they're not going to integrate. They're creating separate enclaves in our society. And this is how the Jews have always, or the Zionists have always operated, divide and rule. Set peoples against each other. And they do, like they did it in Iraq, Sunnis against Shia. The same in Syria, it was Shia against Sunnis. And the problem is in Iran, because Iran is a homogeneous country, they can't really set any groups against each other. I mean, even in the Ukraine, which is another Zionist war, they set like the Catholics against the Orthodox. You've set the Western Ukrainians against the Russians. It's all this policy of divide and rule, splitting us. And it's coming to this country. And it's a gruesome policy. Because what it creates is a dystopia of groups fighting against each other. We lived in a peaceful, harmonious land. We took it for granted. Britain was known around the globe as a tranquil island, a place of social peace. But we're seeing more and more crime, more and more disruption, more and more anarchy. A welfare state is being overwhelmed. I mean, someone said earlier, I think it was Stuart, that 1.6 million people receiving PIP are from Europe. So it's a crazy scenario that we're in, and we need to take control of our own country again. Pat?
Testing 1, 2. Any better?
Lot better.
Brilliant.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks for everyone who's contributed. Massive subject, and people have not mentioned that the modern state of Israel, which is the synagogue of Satan, if you're a Christian, was created from terrorism. Hundreds of British soldiers were killed by Zionist terrorists. King David Hotel was a particular bombing which killed many British soldiers. And as far as I know, the Arabs were forced to allow the Zionists to take more or less half of their country, and they were not happy about that for obvious reasons. And we're not talking just about Muslims, Palestinians, we're talking about Christians as well. And so 1967 borders, I think, were more or less agreed upon. And since 1967, the Zionists have been taking more and more land. They've been expelling more and more Palestinians. there's this saying, the right of return for Jewish people have got a right of return. So if you're a Jewish person anywhere in the world and you've got no ancestors from the Middle East whatsoever, for example, if you're a Jew from America and all your ancestors are from Eastern Europe, you have the right to go and live in Israel and get an Israeli passport and settle there permanently. If you're a Palestinian Christian and your grandparents are expelled from Palestine by the Zionists and you live in America, you're not allowed to go back to their homeland, which is the birthplace of Jesus. So there's Christians supporting Zionism who are expelling Christians from the Holy Land, and they're not allowed to go back there. It does not make sense. And they've been brainwashed, bullied into supporting this deception of Zionism. And these Jews in the modern state of Israel, Synagogue of Satan, they don't love Jesus. They don't acknowledge the New Testament. And we are also being forced by paying taxes to pay for the British military to protect Israel in the air from missiles what are being fired from Iran, Hezbollah, wherever. And our military are protecting Israel committing war crimes in Gaza. They are literally wiping cities off the map. There's pictures of a place called Khan Yunis in Gaza, and it's gone. It's completely gone, and no one's saying nothing about it. After World War II, this wasn't supposed to happen anymore because of World War II. This was not supposed to happen anymore, and they are doing it. That's exactly what they're doing. It's called ethnic cleansing. Some people say genocide, but it's definitely ethnic cleansing. They are going to expel all the Palestinians from Gaza. And our position as a party, National Housing Party, we're a Christian British nationalist party. We are not happy that our military is supporting Israel committing war crimes, number one. Number two, anybody who encourages taking in Palestinian refugees are complicit with war crimes of ethnic cleansing, because as we all know, they're not going to be allowed to go back to Palestine. Whatever country they manage to get the Palestinians to, they're going to be stuck there forever and they'll not be going back to Palestine. So it's interesting that all these, like Paul said earlier, the Labour Party are now talking about, we must take Palestinian refugees. We need to speak out about this, and it's completely wrong that our military, which is being paid by my taxes, to commit war crimes. And all of our politicians are owned by Israel. Nigel Farage is owned by Israel. He attended the secret anniversary of the creation of Israel. Tommy Robinson is owned by Israel. They're promoting Israel no matter what war crimes they are committing. And we are a unique party. We're Christian, and we don't support the Synagogue of Satan because it's in Revelation 3:9. Simple as that. And we are Christians, so we follow the New Testament. Jewish people do not acknowledge the New Testament. It's like they just don't, and they don't love Jesus. If they didn't have a Friends of Israel group in every one of our political parties and our military wasn't being forced to support them, I wouldn't be opposed to them. But they are. They run our media. They run Hollywood. Recently, that poor little girl went to school to celebrate diversity with her Union Jack dress on, and she was sent home. And this is what our country's been brainwashed into, is hating our own culture. And that's all come from Zionism. So in terms of immigration, Muslims, etc., obviously we didn't want any of it coming here in the first place. But there was no terrorism before 2001 in this country. We had millions of Muslims here. Obviously, they were committing other crimes, as in the grooming gangs. But we didn't have terrorism before 2001. What was in 2001? 9/11. Yeah, who did 9/11? Who wanted the West to go and invade all those countries Israel couldn't control what surrounded them? Why couldn't they control those countries surrounding them? Because those countries wouldn't allow the Rothschild central bank into them. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. So that's what Israel are trying to do with Iran, but Iran won't have it, and that's why they're trying to take them out. Also, Russia won't have it. They won't accept the central bank. That's why NATO are attacking Russia. This is Zionism, ladies and gentlemen. And the only chance we've got to be free as a nation is by rejecting Zionism. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. Again, difficult subject tonight, guys. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow Antonella in the chat there. Thank you, Mark Williams. Good to see you in. John Skidmore, yes. I've seen Vinny in. Serena's been in. Bradley Smith, thank you for commenting. Thank you very much, guys. Adrian, thank you very much. First time I've seen you. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. And everyone else in the chat. But we have to talk about these subjects, guys. Everyone's got their own view, but anybody with any common sense who thinks factually will see the wrong in all this. And it just really peeves me that, like, at the beginning, oh, yeah, Israel have a right to their own homeland. Now some of them MPs are like, oh, should they have said that at the beginning? And now, and Pat said this for a while, camps, de-radicalization, kicked out of Israel and never be able to go back. And all you who support Israel, I'm going to be blunt, you support Israel because you don't like Muslims, then Palestinians are going to be coming here, and there's people crying for them to come here. We don't want them here. And like Pat says, anyone who says they want them here, they're complicit in all the crimes that have gone on. And they're going to come here. And unfortunately, Palestinian terrorism is some of the worst that I've ever seen in my life. It's simple as they assassinated the Jordan PM when they moved into there. They destabilized Kuwait as well before the Iraq war. There were a lot of trouble there. And most of the countries won't have them. They should be staying where they are, and something should happen and be sorted out. But it's not going to be. We've been infiltrated by these Zionist groups for decades, guys, decades. And this is the effect it's having on all the country. And again, it's not going to affect a particular place. It affects everyone in the United Kingdom. No matter where you come from, you're a citizen of the United Kingdom. You're going to be last on the list, and you're not priority. It's everything else around the world, and we're against all that. Our party, we're against the money we're sending to Ukraine. We're against all these war issues since the Iraq war, and no one listens to us. Our corrupt politicians are bought, used as slaves through donations and money, gifts, and all that lavish gifts. They've all been complicit in doing this. But anyway, Paul, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, we've got this party being formed now, Corbyn's party, which is essentially a party to mobilise pro-Palestinian, pro-Islamic support in Britain from the left. But we're going to get these parties across Europe. The left is, you see, there's this paradox within the left. In England, they support Islam. In the United Kingdom, the British Isles, in Western Europe, they want Islam to grow. They want to see more mosques. They want to give Islam power. But in Palestine, in the Middle East, they want Islam to be under the Zionist thumb or the Zionist heel. And so this is a tension because the Muslims in this country are not happy with this. And they're getting very angry with the left because the left, the Labour government, which is a left-wing government, although it pretends to be mainstream, it's a left-wing government, they are supporting Israel. Surreptitiously at times, hidden, but it's happening constantly. And they're making sure that Israel gets hegemony, gets control over these Islamic countries and subjugates them. Basically, what Israel does is the same as what they do in Europe. The ruling elite that they put into power are just their puppets and do their bidding. And this is going to be true in Syria. It's going to be true in, other Arab countries. Or if they can't achieve this, it's difficult in the Arab countries because Arab countries haven't got a democratic tradition. They can manipulate the people through democracy. But in these Arab countries, what the Zionists do is they set one group against another. So these countries get embroiled in endless civil wars. And it's this destabilization which, pushes people again towards Europe. I mean, what the Israelis seem to be doing is stirring up a mess in the Middle East and then expect dumping all the crap onto Europe that we have to sort of absorb it all. But this is reaching a critical point now because it's the same in Paris, it's the same in Germany, it's the same in Holland and Belgium and Italy. Look what's recently been going on in Spain, virtual civil war in some Spanish towns. The Islamic presence is now multi-million, extremely large, extremely well organized, and asserting itself, and is backed by our ruling politicians who promote the minorities over the majority. And so this is creating tensions in our country. Just as the Israelis have basically ripped up the Middle East and set it on fire, they're effectively going to set the whole of Europe on fire towards this path of civil war. And we're seeing it in America as well. We're seeing it in the likes of Los Angeles. I mean, they've used the Mexicans, the Hispanics, as a battering ram against the Christian majority in America. This is the Jewish revolutionary spirit which sets one group against another. This is what communism was about. When it talked about the working class against the ruling class or the proletariat against the bourgeoisie, the Marxist method, it's just the same Jewish method of divide and rule. Separate the people, set them against each other, get a civil war going, break down their strength, and then we can control them. And this leads to chaos. It leads to perpetual chaos. And it's coming here because our rulers won't stand up for our people. We have been in the past ordered, decent, prosperous, successful, secure, safe societies. Now we're facing something totally different. We can see a wolf coming down the track, and it's causing chaos in our society. And people are fearful of the future. I mean, so much of our thought is being rooted in the Second World War. We don't want another Second World War. We don't want another Hitler. That's all gone now because the concerns about the Second World War are very much in the distant past. Our concerns now are about the future, and we can see the chaos ahead. And we're going to have to fight our ground. If all these groups are organized and fighting in our society, we've got to organize and be strong ourselves. And therefore, we've got to form our battalions. This is what politics is ultimately about. We have got to form our own group, our own identity. As Pat said, we're Christian British nationalists. We have to defend our heritage and give our children a future in our own land. And all these wars in the Middle East, they're not distant because they're in our political establishment. They're in this country. It's like we're now like a country with AIDS. We've got no barrier to these conflicts, and they're overwhelming us. And like it's, the antibodies, the different groups, the Palestinians, the Zionists, they're battling in our own nation now. We've got no defense against them. We've got to stand up strong, and we've got to play the British card. We, the British, have not gone away. We're still here, and we're going to assert ourselves and take back control of our own country. James, any comments?
No, you laid it all out there, Paul. That was awesome. I was feeling very passionate with some of the things you were saying because it's very real. It's very real, and we need to start getting organized. We need to start coming together because there's only going to get worse. It's rolling downhill. Yeah, so that's why I am, quite passionately getting involved and researching, and pretty much there's a lot of the spare time I have, family and a lot of work. But I am, doing a lot of research, trying to find the truth seeking, and also trying to find solutions and working together and trying to get other people involved and red pilling them, as they say. Because it's it's just gonna go from one extreme to another. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think this has been a great stream, and everyone's added some really good bits. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, John, on the, I know I sent you a lot of stuff earlier, but I did send you our hidden anti-Semitism law. We follow international Holocaust something or another. So it's built in to our agreements with the UN, etc. I don't know if you want to pull that up, if you can, John, but don't worry if you can't. The reason why I say that is a few weeks ago, I pulled out some information on proposed get my words out, Islamophobia laws that they're pushing through. The anti-Semitism laws, somebody pulled me up and said, oh, you know, how can you be anti-Muslim and anti-Semite? And I said, well, we're being regulated against, we can't speak out against Islam if it all goes through. And you don't know that it's already hidden within our international laws that we can't speak against Judaism. So that's anti-Semitism. I think it's over 2 pages, John, but on one link. It was marked. But don't worry, it's just I wanted to point out that fact. There's no Christianophobia law. There's no anti-Christian law. Do you know what I mean? You can say what you like about Jesus, and the Jews, over 70% of them are Talmudic Jews, and Talmudic Jews believe that our Jesus Christ is boiling in a pot of shit in hell. That's what they believe. So, but they're insidious. As Paul said, they get within and they creep in, they get positions of power, positions of media. So our power positions are controlled. Our media is controlled. So we only get one set. We don't get the full information of what's going on. We've been told for years that Hamas use humans as hostages, hospitals, etc., churches. But it come out within the Iran attack. There was several places where Iran pinpointed and got underneath buildings next to hospitals, for example. And they had one of their command centres, but literally right next to a hospital, underneath the ground, underneath the next building.
Who?
Israel. They had some of their... So, sorry, I'll get my words out. It's getting late in the day for me.
Right.
They used their own people as human shields. Sorry, not hostages, human shields.
Let me just interrupt. Let me go to Pat to finish, because I've got to do an emergency's come up, but I've got to go. But let's go to Pat to finish. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining in. No matter how you've commented and stuff like that, kept the chat peaceful and good and everything. But like I said, we've got our own issues. So go on, Pat, finish.
Yeah, so just to remind everyone, our conference on the 23rd of August. You don't have to pay for tickets. You just got to email us at admin@nationalhousingparty.uk. We've got some great speakers who will be speaking there. And hopefully the mighty guy in Liverpool will maybe turn up and do a speech. We'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, I think what we need to remember is who did 9/11. You need to look into that. And the motive for all those attacks in the Middle East, they tricked the West into invading Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, which all caused mass refugee invasions into Europe. Many of our soldiers was killed, and it was all for Israel's benefit.
Weapons of mass destruction, there was none, and that's been
all lies. And it's the same guy, it's the same blinking bloke doing it. Netanyahu, he's been at it since 1995, conning everybody in the West. Oh, they got a bomb, they got an atomic bomb, we've got to invade them. They're doing it again with Iran. So, you know, and we've had terrorist attack upon terrorist attack, 7/7, Lee Rigby, the Manchester Arena bombing, all because of our armies invading the Middle East, because Israel done a false flag attack on 9/11. And they set us against the Muslims. People need to wake up. This is the reality. We've had terror laws brought in. We can't even go on holiday and come back and refuse the police to look in your phone. And if you do, you'll be charged as a terrorist. You know, it's unbelievable what's happened to our society, all because of 9/11. So thanks for watching. Amazing stream. Share it around. Just remember that we speak the truth in this party. We won't shut up for anyone. We put the British citizens first, British people first, because, you know, we're Christian as well. The truth will set us free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, everyone on the panel. A good night and God bless.
God bless.